All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome. My name is Allegra Elson. I serve as Director of Training and Development with Vibrant Pittsburgh. My pronouns are she, her. I'm excited to welcome you to our Vibrant Index 4.0 question and answer session today. This is an informal question and answer session. Our report to the region was released on June 13th, and we're very excited about that. And we're excited to talk with you more about the results of the Vibrant Index and the key findings from the Vibrant Index 4.0, how scaling and upskilling your DEI efforts benefit your organization and the region, and also how you can join the next Vibrant Index. So to get us started with this conversation, I'm very happy to welcome my colleagues and teammates, Lora McKnight, Chief Operating Officer, Sabrina Bogus, Senior Director of Membership Development and Engagement, and Derrick Shoffner, Senior Director of Programs and Services. And as always, Matthew Yohe, Programs and Services Manager, is with us today on the call to manage the chat and help us out. So I'm going to jump right in. I ask those of you in attendance, if you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat, please do. Let us know, where you're from, what organization you are with, and also if you have any questions. We're going to get started with some general questions, and then we will move into any questions that you have. So feel free to drop those in the chat at any time. You can also raise your hand and you can unmute. So to get us started, so Derrick, Sabrina, Lora, if you could briefly, from your perspectives, how do you answer this question? Vibrant Index, what is it? And Derrick, we'll get started with you.
Yeah, thanks, Allegra, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try and be brief with this response and not give my generic pitch of what the Vibrant Index is. But the Vibrant Index is a tool that is open and accessible to the region here, that is free regardless of membership status to Vibrant Pittsburgh. That is a diagnostic tool that benchmarks your organization's current practices, ranging from written commitment all the way through the ways in which you're engaging with community through community engagement, to comprehensively assess your current status, stage and state, in comparison to best practices of diversity, equity, and inclusion, to paint a comprehensive picture of where your organization is in terms of strengths, in addition to areas of opportunity to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion within your organization, and more largely within the region as well. So my brief, what is the Vibrant Index?
Thanks so much, Derrick. Sabrina Bogus, let's turn to you.
Yeah, so my answer will piggyback a little bit off of Derrick's. From the membership point of view, I look at the index as a really great guide for our members and potential members to figure out where their DEI journey is at and where they want it to head. So, as a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh, when I'm talking with our organizations, I always say it's a really great way to kind of figure out how you want to use your benefits to ensure that you're pushing DEI initiatives forward. So it is a really great guide for our organizations and for organizations in the region to figure out what is the work they want to do, what are they currently doing, and where can they go from here? Because sometimes that's the biggest question is, what's the next step? And I think the index is a really great way to figure that out.
Great. Thanks so much, Sabrina. Lora, asking you the same question.
So to not repeat what's already been said, which I agree with wholeheartedly, from an operations and regional strategy perspective, the Vibrant Index is a way for organizations to participate in what we, Vibrant Pittsburgh, have been called to do with our mission and vision, to create a region that is a place where everyone can thrive, a place where everyone sees themselves elevated, belonging, a place that includes everyone. This is the way for an organization to align themselves with that regional strategy so that we see a future forward region for Pittsburgh and we see a future of Pittsburgh thriving. So this is a way for organizations to ensure that they themselves have the practices in place to thrive, but also to contribute to that regional vision that we in the Allegheny Conference on Community Development are both pushing forward with this work.
Great. Thank you. Thank all of you so much. So I'm going to stop sharing. What you're seeing on the screen right now are the 9 pillar areas of the Vibrant Index, and that there are questions around all of these pillar areas in the Vibrant Index. So I just wanted to make sure that folks knew what those categories were, particularly if you wanted to ask any questions about them. But for now, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can have more of just a conversation together about the Vibrant Index. So let me do that, and let me get back to some other questions that I have for all of you. So Laura, I'm going to stick, oh, actually, hold on one second, everyone. Sorry. Derrick, I'm going to go back to you and ask you, what have we learned from the 2023 Vibrant Index 4.0 report to the region and the summer report? So what are some key things that we've learned from the report so far?
Yeah, I mean, we learned a considerable amount within the summary report for 4.0 as to the state and the stage of the sample of the 120 organizations that participated in the Vibrant Index. Year to year, that sample changes. So this is more largely reporting upon the sample for the previous iteration from 4.0, but starting with the strengths of the sample, there are some really strong indicators within the 120 organizations that participated, starting with written commitment and transparency. 95% of the companies that participated have an established non-discrimination policy, and it's comprehensive. So that is a really strong indicator for the sample, not just of the affinities and identities and groups that are protected by state and federal labor laws, but going even further than that. So kudos to the sample upon that. As mentioned in the report to the region, ERGs and EBRGs are largely being supported now, which has been continual growth, I would say year over year with the sample, comparing those to a stage that it is now more largely being facilitated internally and being endorsed externally by organizations and companies as well. And then additionally, I would say this is more of like a culmination of the past 3 works from 3 years from a climate standpoint. Would be there is now a streamlined effort in terms of reporting from someone or a group of individuals within an organization directly to the highest ranking official of the respective organization. 81% of the companies within the sample have an employee or employees that report directly towards the status of DEI initiatives within the organization. And again, I would like harken back to saying that's more largely of just like the fruits of 3 years of labor for many organizations and demonstrated action to the point. And I mean, perhaps 3 years ago, or even perhaps last year, organizations were investing in DEI by saying, we're going to build a department, or we're going to rework someone's job description so that DEI is embedded in that. And then going further by creating that line of communication by way of reporting is critically important. So that's another line item of an indicator of strength that I really want to draw attention to within the sample as well. And then additionally, from a strength standpoint, the sample really illuminated the ways in which they're mitigating bias in hiring processes. So by way of standardized interview questions and attempting to control and mitigate bias as much as they can by using hiring panels as well. So those are the strengths. Conversely, there are always areas of opportunity, some of which we have known for several years, and some of which that are new as well. By way of which the area that continues to be the largest area of opportunity for the sample for now the 4th year in a row continues to be supplier diversity by way of, and it's multifaceted. So I'm going to try and like be succinct and brief with like breaking down the particular challenges and barriers within that. But first and foremost, companies don't have a formal plan to begin with surrounding supplier diversity. Those that do, there's challenges surrounding the parameters that they are facilitating that plan. So they're not, tracking metrics around their current suppliers. They're not tracking spend towards their suppliers, regardless of if they're diverse or not. like the data isn't embedded within that, and the accountability metrics, which is a great segue, isn't embedded into their supplier diversity plan. And then areas that we didn't know that we're illuminating this year within the sample were the presence or lack thereof of accountability metrics. Companies, in layman's terms, are living in a world of ambiguity as to their status and stage of DEI towards the initiatives that they're stewarding, the programs that they're leading. What's being conveyed to us within the data is that they don't know the stage and the status of them as to if they're being successful, as if the outcomes are what they have intended them to be, things of that nature that are critically important so that unintended outcomes aren't being met. And the intended outcomes that you want are, and that isn't being tracked or reported by way of accountability metrics as well. By way, additionally, as a demographic information, but I will create space and time for others to speak on this as well. So I'll stop there for the sake of others to jump in as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great place to hold for our audience to think about a little bit of what you covered, you know, the promising practices and some things that still need work, to see if Lora or Sabrina want to jump in at all from what they see in the report, and to see, I'm going to change a little bit. I might jump to a couple questions that we had a couple weeks ago at the report to the region, but I will hold here and see if Lora or Sabrina have comments or if our audience has questions or comments.
I'm going to jump in. I would love to know if there are any questions, but I know that talking about accountability metrics and supplier diversity can be confusing to organizations that are just beginning on this journey. What do those words really mean? And especially if you're a small organization, how do these things relate to, you know, an organization the size of Vibrant Pittsburgh? We have 11 individuals on our staff. So when we think about supplier diversity or how we're utilizing vendors that are coming from underrepresented groups, that looks very different from an organization that is very large and would have a whole supplier diversity department. So something that I like to highlight and think about when having these conversations is what makes sense for the organization. And there is something that will make sense for the organization, regardless of size, for supplier diversity. The way that we track our diverse suppliers is more simple than, say, a very large organization like our Vibrant Champion UPMC or PNC. Similarly, with accountability metrics, I think really thinking about how do we break this down into, you know, as Derrick said, in layman's terms. So how are you tracking that? Is it working? And how do you know? So those are the three questions that I usually grapple with. So how do we know that what we're doing is working? And that's going to be different for each and every organization. A lot of this data may be qualitative in nature. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't be tracked. So one of the benefits of participating in the Vibrant Index is having that post-diagnostic conversation with Derrick and with the rest of our team to have conversations like this. So as an organization to say, when you say that we didn't do well here, I really don't know how we could do well here. And then having that further conversation and getting that consultation.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you. All right, this helps my order of questions, but what I want to, since we're on this topic of supplier diversity, this is a question that came through 2 weeks ago at the report to the region, and I will read it as is. So, would love help in identifying diverse vendors. Has been quite difficult to find minority-owned businesses. Women-owned is easy to find, but BIPOC-owned has been a struggle in Pittsburgh for us. So would love to get some thoughts on that question.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. As it relates to, you know, sourcing diverse suppliers, there's a number of really strong anchor organizations like EMSDC, such as Beam, companies and organizations that can really support you with sourcing diverse suppliers. That is by way if you want to work in a partnership capacity. If independently, ranging if that is a smaller company seeking to go across and on this this path independently, there are databases and platforms in which are not comprehensive. So I want to provide that caveat that are not comprehensive. You should still do due diligence with seeking and building new relationships and seeking as much diversity that you can across your supply chain. But there are databases as well that you can utilize here local to us throughout the state of Pennsylvania to identify diverse suppliers that may fit your project scope or that may fit for any initiative that you were stewarding and leading. Matthew just added one right into the chat here that has a wealth of suppliers that are listed in the database that you can utilize as well to support your projects. But it all additionally starts with community engagement as well. I think within the pillars and the ways in which we assess the Vibrant Index, they're all in tandem to one another. So, having a low score or not doing anything in community engagement, especially in Pittsburgh, you have no idea who you're going to meet at a festival, at a parade that you're endorsing or that you're sponsoring, that could manifest in a diverse supplier, a consultant, or someone that can help steward a new relationship for you that may be fruitful for your organization. So think of the traditional paths of sourcing diverse suppliers, but also think outside of the box in ways in which you can build and cultivate relationships that can be fruitful for your organization as well by way of supplier diversity too. So I'll stop there if anyone else wants to jump in.
Thanks. I want to go back to Lora just for a moment of something that you said, that supplier diversity looks very different for an organization such as our size of 11 staff members versus a very large organization. Can you talk a little bit more about what supplier diversity looks like for small to mid-sized organizations? Because I get that question a lot of sometimes these are great ideas, but it's not something we can execute based on our budget or based on our size.
Well, I know that the first step with any of these efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion is to really assess and benchmark where you're starting. So for any size organization, getting a good lay of the land around your vendors is essential. So for Vibrant Pittsburgh, we do a lot of events. We have office supplies, 2 areas, right, that I can think of off the top of my head. And so looking at who we're currently utilizing as our catering organizations, looking at who we're currently utilizing to get office supplies, looking to see if the IT support organization that we use is owned by women or by a minority supplier. Just really looking at any vendor relationship that the organization has or has had in the past and seeing how much do I know about these vendors? How did I choose these vendors? Was there a process in place, or was this word of mouth? You should go with this organization. I remember at one point we were utilizing a very large copier leasing organization, and then moved to a local minority-owned business that handled our copier products at that time. That required thought. It required an awareness of what we were spending and diligence, but tracking that as well. And that tracking doesn't have to be extensive. It can literally be keeping track of all of your vendor names. Do you know who owns these vendors? How much are you spending? So it can be as simple as you need it to be to begin, but that's my first recommendation for a small organization, is to really look at where you are spending money, how you're making those decisions. And oftentimes for very small organizations, Vibrant's a small nonprofit, we make a lot of decisions based on cost, but then we also need to look at our mission, our vision, our values, and say, okay, how much of a cost difference is there here? Can we utilize someone local? Can we utilize someone that could bring the benefit to us that we're looking for, that diversity of perspective? within our vendor community.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that. So Sabrina Bogus, I want to move over to you. We've been, as Derrick said, the Vibrant Index is open to all organizations in the region. It's free, it's confidential, so it's open to members and non-members. And as you said, it's a great guide to get started on your DEI journey if you've just started that. But I'd like you to talk more as people, if there are some people on the call who are not a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh, or those of you who are members of Vibrant Pittsburgh, what are some of the key benefits of being a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple, but I'll cover really one of the ones I think is the biggest impact with, our members who are doing the index or maybe interested in doing the index. And just as a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh, you are connected to other organizations who are doing and focusing on the areas that we're measuring within the index. Our 11 champions are all members of Vibrant Pittsburgh. So being part of our membership, being part of Vibrant Pittsburgh, it's going to connect you with other organizations. Maybe you don't know where to start with supplier diversity, but you're going to be able to go to one of our council events, one of our events, and meet and connect with other people who maybe are doing that work. So it is a really great way to connect. And I always say when I'm talking with potential members, you don't have to start, reinvent the wheel. You don't have to start over from scratch. You are connecting with other members who are maybe looking to partner with someone to come up with these initiatives or are already starting them. So it is a really great way to help you along the way with your, with the initiatives that you're putting in place. And it's also great, depending on where you score at within the index, using the different benefits that we offer, our education, our training, those council convenings, the partnerships we have within the other member organizations is going to only help you grow and increase your score within your index. So we have members who use their report out from their index this year to say, okay, where are we at? Where do we want to improve? Where do we want to change? And then use the benefits we offer to help do that. So there's a couple different ways that there's definitely benefits to using using what you can do within Vibrant and having that help your index score and really identifying to help your organization move forward. I think even with the supplier index, we have, a couple of the chambers of commerce are members here. We're doing events with chambers of commerce, Three Rivers Business Alliance. We have a couple here that are a great way to start identifying vendors to help you grow your supplier diversity. So it really is all about connecting our organizations and helping each other in the work that we're doing, that we're measuring within the index. So I think that's really one of the biggest benefits with being a member and then how it ties into the index.
Yeah, thank you. I've definitely seen that over my time here at Vibrant Pittsburgh, that Vibrant Pittsburgh does function as a connector and a convener and bringing people together who are working on similar things. And so it takes that mystery out of it, and it takes a little bit of that competition out of it too. Like, oh, we can work on this together and make things work together for the region and improve diversity, equity, inclusion practices across the board and across the region. So yeah, thanks for that, Sabrina. So there is a question in the chat that says, can you share more details on the scoring criteria, rubric, and ranges?
Yeah, I can jump in here. With that, everyone looks at me for this one. Yeah, I mean, more largely, the Vibrant Index, all of the scoring is based upon demonstrated action. So with the ways in which we score, the ways in which your score and overall score, in addition to that of the pillar, is computed is by demonstrated action. So if there is, there's the threshold that is drawn is often measurable. So for example, like training and education, do you provide training at least once on an annual basis to these individuals? Those things are directly assessed by way of demonstrated action. So if you don't, you will not get scoring for that. If you do, you will get scoring for that. And we carry that same measurement and assessment across and embed it within the entire index, which is a great segue into the Vibrant Champions. And Allegra, I may have stole your thunder here.
Oh, not at all, not at all. We're right together on this.
And Sabrina mentioned the 11 Vibrant Champions, all of which are members of Vibrant Pittsburgh. But more largely, this designation does not like share that these individuals are perfect. What it does convey is that these organizations have scored at least 95% across every pillar of the Vibrant Index. If you score below that on one particular pillar, you are not designated as a champion. So it has to hold true across every pillar area of the Vibrant Index. And again, not conveying perfection, but demonstrated action towards diversity, equity, and inclusion within your organization. More largely, that it's embedded within our region as well. What I hope to convey for all organizations, not on this call, not just on this call, but also that participate in the index, is that you all are stewards of the region. So the environment that you cultivate within your organization, which we try to compute within numbers and data here, more largely impacts the entire region. So all of us are stewards of cultivating an environment in which diversity and individuals of diverse backgrounds can thrive, taking some of Laura's words as well. So with that in mind, and I see scoring around like basis of 1 to 10. There will not be, and this year, as those have reviewed their individual reports this year, it's not a 1 to 10 measure this year, given the emphasis upon upskilling the tool, but also more of an assessment of not just state, but also stage of your diversity, equity, and inclusion practice internally, so that we can continue to drive forward and move forward diversity, equity, and inclusion within the region. So I hope that answers questions for everyone. I'll pause here if it doesn't.
Derrick, maybe you saw the question in the chat. In terms of scoring, it was on a scale of 10 in previous years, but this year it wasn't. How should we measure growth year over year? So start with that question, then I have another question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think year over year, I mean, I'm going to be like a little bit philosophical, then I'll be a little more practical to like narrow it down for everyone. Philosophically, diversity, equity, and inclusion is always going to be a forward-leading practice for the entire industry, but also for our region as well. So even taking a micro approach, what was a best practice today perhaps was not a best practice 3 years ago, or for the sake of the index 4 years ago, when this tool was in its initial stage. So with that in mind, the tool is stable by way of many questions that you saw year over year over year. But with that in mind, the ways in which we are computing and scoring that accordingly prioritizes these tried and true measures that stand the test of time in terms of cultivating and incubating diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those are scored more prominently. So do you have a non-discrimination policy? That is something that cannot be refuted. You need one. And with urgency, you need one. And you need it to be comprehensive to combat a presence of inequity or discrimination within your respective organization. So as a result, those are scored more prominently. So year to year, with your score overall, I think there are a couple of ways in which you can interpret this. And within individual reports, not me like saying you should sign up for an individual consultation with me, but if you do, we can get into further detail about it. But more largely, for individual interpretation of your score year to year, you should approach it with a couple of thoughts in mind. First and foremost, the climate and the state of that particular time period. So last year, keep in the context of like what last year brought you and your respective organization. And same of which at this state and time as well. What this year has brought you and your respective organization. With that in mind, then you can start to assess the best practices that have been adopted and integrated within your organization as well. So scoring overall, the way in which that is computed, you can compare those side by side. Comparatively by interpreting your overall score in comparison of that to the sample size. That's going to be the most fruitful for your respective organization. Yours versus comparison to the sample. We've had a great return of organizations that have participated year after year after year. That will be the most fruitful for you. But all to say that the interpretation and the data and the way in which we evaluate and score has remained largely stable and largely the same, so to speak. What you're just seeing is like not out of 10 points.
So this highlights definitely the need for the individual consultation with you, which is
Yes.
also free, and which Derrick is scheduling now, and we'll drop a link a little bit later in here so that you can get an individual consultation with him. Because if we're talking about the sample size and we're talking about the size of your organization, that really needs to be parsed out, I think, individually.
Yeah.
And so the question that I had is, as we look at the champions and we can see from the perspective of having, you know, a very large organization like UPMC, and then a relatively, shall we say, staffing wise, small organization like Hugh Lane Wellness Foundation, how does that scoring work? Or how is, like, if I'm in a very, like, you know, Vibrant Pittsburgh is a small organization, you know, how does a small organization score versus, you know, a larger organization that may have more resources? How does that work in terms of being a champion?
I'll jump in again.
Okay.
For scoring here. There were a number of preconceived notions that we had in terms of data and assessment as to the relationship of organization size and that of overall scoring for the sample and previous samples. This year, the sample debunked that theory, that there is a relationship more largely with overall scoring and the size of an organization, with one caveat, and this is more intuitive, and that being the provision of internal EBRGs. That was the only pillar area in which that did not hold true. And that's more intuitive. You know, if for an organization that's less than 50 people, I'm the only Black or brown person there, it's very hard for an affinity group for Black and brown people to be executed and delivered internally. So that's more intuitive. So with that in mind, the scoring held very strong for organizations regardless of their size. And as a result, scoring was weighted and controlled for that variable within that pillar area. But other than that, there was very little weighing to the score that was being conveyed here. And that's more largely to the commitment and the testament of the work that organizations are driving as it pertains to DEI internally within their organizations. So more largely, philosophically here as well, the variables that organizations can control with like provisions of diversity, equity, and inclusion that aren't incumbent upon organization size, organizations are providing and are considering and moving forward with provisions surrounding those things there.
Great. Yeah, I'm going to take a moment to stop sharing, take a moment for a pause to see what questions there are from the audience.
If I can just jump in super quick, and I just want to say that is something that really pleases me to see, because in previous iterations of the tool, we did have that concern. Can small organizations do this work as consistently and as well as a large organization? We know they can. We know that it can look different, but that doesn't mean it's anywhere that it's less effective. So I really do want to highlight, and I know someone in the chat is asking about how to do a consultation. These consultation meetings are so important because it's really an opportunity to have a time to ask questions that are very specific to your organization and to get that thought process moving around how you can make it work within your specific culture.
And what I'm going to do now, we still have plenty of time for questions. I have more questions, but what I am going to do now is move to the slide that I have about for more information, and then Matthew is going to slowly start dropping those links that everybody needs into the chat. But let me just do that for a moment here so that folks have what they need. Excuse me, everyone, sorry. So what we're going to do, and Matthew, if you could just do this like one at a time, we'll put the report to the region first, and then next we'll put in how to schedule your complimentary consultation, and then also Derrick's email too. So I just want to drop those in, give you a chance to take a look at this slide, give you a chance to use that QR code, but we're going to start to drop those into the chat so that you have them, and you have them now before we leave for today. So yeah, thanks for that, Laura, and thanks for the question in the chat. And I'm just going to hold for a moment here and just see what other questions may come up for now. And we will also send out all of this information in an email afterwards, as we always do after all of our programming too.
And Allegra, I can add as well. So as Derrick mentioned with the consultations, you know, we can do those hand in hand with the membership team as well. So if you are a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh, we will be part of those consultations if you want us to, so the membership team. So that way we can work with Derrick, work with you to say, you know, where are the areas you want to grow? And then how does that tie into the benefits that you have available? So we do really try to tie in any of the programming work that we do in with the benefits that are available. So you're not having to figure this out all on your own. We want it to be something that we can support you along the way in every aspect of your membership here. So that is another way it does tie in really well with the membership offerings, is we try to make sure that they all work together.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sabrina. And Sabrina, I want to stay with you for a moment, and I would like you to talk about how the membership engagement team engages with members throughout the year. You know, sometimes we think about a membership, you know, you sign up and then, you know, you're supposed to do your thing and you don't hear anything. But I think we have a very different model where there's lots of communication between the membership engagement team and our members. So I wondered if you could talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so there's always a couple different ways that we do it. So myself, Irving, and Emma, who are on my team, we are always here to work with any of our members to help you with your benefits. So if you're wanting to get more of your staff involved with lunch and learns, with your, you know, with scheduling training, with getting involved with councils, that's what the team is here to help ensure that you are taking advantage of. So we can schedule, much like Derrick, you know, we can do check-ins with you throughout the year. So we try to make sure to schedule check-ins, but if you want to schedule on a more often basis, I have some members that want to meet every quarter to talk about how are they using benefits, what are they missing out on, what should they be taking more advantage of. So we have those kind of almost like consultations in a sense from the membership side, but then throughout the year, we have multiple council meetings, multiple membership engagement events that we're doing. So we have our council meetings. We are doing, you know, we just had an event with Allegheny Allies, with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, where we are just bringing people together, working to connect our member organizations and people within those events to really just give everyone the chance to meet and connect and share ideas, find someone else that's maybe working on a similar project. So throughout the year, there's just a lot of opportunities for our members to engage with each other. As Laura mentioned, it's really about breaking down silos between industries. I think at the end of the day, everyone wants the Pittsburgh region to be, for lack of a better term, more vibrant and engaging and welcoming. And we want people,
that's the best term,
right? I always like lack of a better term, but we want people to, I always say we want people to move to the region, but we want to keep them here. We want their partners to feel like they're part of the region. We want everyone to feel like they can see themselves staying here, because the more they feel that way, the more they feel engaged, the more they feel seen by their organizations. So by the company that they're working for, the more that they feel like their companies are doing work to make them feel seen and part of the community, the more likely people are to stay and want to stay in the Pittsburgh region. So that's what we try to do with our membership and our events that we're doing, is to ensure we're providing those opportunities. So long-winded answer to say a couple different ways we can help ensure that, you know, members are taking advantage of these benefits and connecting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like to reiterate a lot of what the different benefits of membership are, because I don't, you know, sometimes folks aren't aware, or we get, you know, into our daily work lives, and, you know, we want particularly members, to remember that you can, reach out to us and ask the questions that you need to ask. So speaking of questions, and maybe Derrick, you have seen the latest question in the chat, and I think I know the answer to the question, but it is, can you share scoring range, minimum or maximum? Is it something that it's better to be discussed in individual consultation? What great looks like for each index category and where we need to prioritize.
Yeah. It'll be best just to have those conversations across consultation meetings, more largely because for like EBRGs and the provisions of such, you aren't taxed for not having the critical mass for providing an EBRG internally, because it wouldn't make sense. Then it wouldn't be a fruitful ERG if there's only one person in there. So things of that nature. So there are a couple of tracks, so to speak. So without overwhelming everyone with information and data and surrounding that, it's best to like identify that track for that specific organization and say, here's where you are, rated on this scale, which is how consultation sessions occur. And here's the way in which we can move it forward so that your organization can be at this point, if that is where you want to go, strategically through support with Vibrant Pittsburgh, if you are a member, or through convening by just like sharing resources as well to move your organization forward. So without overwhelming everyone with like 12 different scoring platforms and tracks and so on and so forth, it's best to have that individualized approach. So again, hear me selling consultation meetings again, but the best way of having that individualized approach is by that.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. I'm just going to hold for a moment for if any other questions from the audience today. So not to put everything on you, Derrick or Lora, we could talk about like what's next for the Vibrant Index. We know there's going to be a Vibrant Index 5.0. It's opening in January. But maybe let me put it this way. What can everybody on this call and what can people in the region be doing until January 2024 to get ready for the index? And I'll leave that question open to all three of you.
Yeah, I'll jump in here just to keep it going. Picking up right where I left off, first and foremost, I have a consultation session. It's like progress is marked by way of strategy. So knowing where to go is a good place to start for improvement upon the Vibrant Index, but more importantly, improvement within your organization to cultivate environments of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's the best place to start. And just by way of doing that, additionally, what you can expect for Vibrant Index 5.0 is going to be very much of the same as what you saw this year. The integration of a sub-index was novel for 4.0, as many of you all saw. That's going to remain true for 5.0. What we were hoping is for it to be something outside of supplier diversity, like a new and emerging area of opportunity for the region and for the samples that we've had. And that does not seem to be the case. So that as well, that will continue to remain true. Again, for next year as well, you'll continue to see streamlined approaches for delivery, participation, and for reporting. So this year, I and the team are really proud of the way in which we like streamlined all of these approaches to A, get the tool in front of you, for B, to make it easier for you to participate, and then C, for you to have your data on the back end quicker. Usually you're getting this information in late August. Like this gives more of a runway for action for this year, being that you'll receive the assessment in January. So now you have nearly 6 months to strategize, to implement, and to evaluate some of the initiatives that you can tangibly implement to improve your score for next year, whether that's just like policy adoption or building out a program. But again, circling back, that all starts with consultation and strategic planning, and we're here for that to support you in that initiative.
So go ahead, Lora.
I can go next.
Yeah, sure.
So to answer first the question of how to get prepared for the next iteration, what I always highly recommend, I'm a person who likes to get down into it, is to go back to that PDF copy of the questions that you have. And if you don't have it, you can connect with us to get it. And to begin to look at the areas where your organization was not able to say, yes, definitively, we do this thing. And to begin to talk through in the ways that make sense for you, how you're going to strategize around what areas you're going to approach with the most intensity for the upcoming year. Where can we make the biggest impact on our organization's culture through adopting some of these things that are incredibly quantifiable? Now, we know that the structure that's created within these pieces of the Vibrant Index, they don't necessarily create culture, but they do impact culture, right? So that's what I would begin to think about, is how can we impact our culture, make this a better place for our employees through making these tangible changes and beginning to strategize that out. What can we do this year? What can we do next year? Really taking it and saying, over the next 3 years, how can we make changes that make sense for our organization? What would that require? How does that look for our budget? What is sustainable? So that's what I would do. And that's how I approach the changes that Vibrant Pittsburgh has to make to become better at this work. Because of course we need to be participating, which we do, and we need to continue to grow and to provide better opportunities for our employees and really hit those pillars. So every year I'm thinking, how can we get closer to being champions ourselves?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what's coming up for the Vibrant Index? When I look out farther, I can say, and it pleases me that organizations across the state of Pennsylvania have wanted to participate in this process that is just for the Southwestern Pennsylvania region. We've had organizations in other states that are interested in participating. So what I'm excited about is that we have a tool that is highly desirable. And how do we capitalize on that within our region so as many organizations as possible can be participating? And then how do we translate that out so that we can see results and greater equity and inclusion at the state level, multi-state level? So that's where I'm excited. And I think that it's good for participants to know that you are participating in a process that is pretty unique for the United States. A regionally focused diversity and equity best practice assessment. It's not available everywhere. So take advantage of it.
And we always get that question: is there a Vibrant Chicago? Is there a Vibrant Atlanta? You know, is there a Vibrant Sacramento? And the answer is no, not yet. Right. So great. Thank you. Thanks. Sabrina, was there anything that you wanted to add? I have a call to action slide but I want to give you a chance if there's something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I will just add in, so almost kind of like a shout out for some of your training that you do, is also a resilience through equity series. So as a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh, obviously I talk a lot about membership and what you get with it. But we have our resilience through equity series calls that are tied into the 9 key pillars of the index that are going to talk about ways that you can, develop training, resources, things around the index that Allegra hosts. So I will shout them out for her, that I definitely, are open to all staff. They're open to, as you're a member of Vibrant Pittsburgh, you and your staff can attend those so much, like the lunch and learns. So that's just like another resource that is available as a member that ties into the index that, if you're attending those, you're going to get a lot of really great resources on how you can grow your score within the index and what other members are doing. So I highly recommend those, just kind of as a side note to everything that we offer here.
Thanks for that, Sabrina. I appreciate that. As a member, you can attend our lunch and learns, which cover a variety of diversity, equity, inclusion topics. And yes, the Resilience Through Equity series covers specifically the 9 pillars from the Vibrant Index, which we do very intentionally. And, I'm, in terms of that series and in terms of that work coming up for the rest of the year, in terms of training and education, there will be a strong focus on supplier diversity and how to create a plan, how to track that spend, how to show what you are doing And so that will become a focus as we go into the year. And we also are planning to have it be much more hands-on, hopefully in-person workshops or seminars where folks can sit down and do the work together and see how to, get that work done for the rest of the year. So I want, with the time that we have left, there's still time for questions, but I also want to just remind everyone that the call to action that Sabrina Saunders Mosby made for us at the report to the region 2 weeks ago on June 13th, and that recording is also available to everybody on our YouTube page. But thinking about how you extend diversity to suppliers, remembering that what gets measured gets accomplished, and doubling down on demographic data and really collecting that data, analyzing that data, and making data-driven decision making. So as I leave this screen or the slide up here, Derrick or Sabrina or Lora, do you also have comments about the call to action for the rest of this year and going into next year?
I feel like I'm the first to unmute. I do want to draw attention to, as Sabrina mentioned here, and it's conveying in her call to action, is just continued participation in the index. It sounds like funny coming from me, being the person that stewards the index, but it's critically important to know where your organization is in relation to best practices. And then taking that a step further, we've evolved into like where your company stands in comparison to those in the industry that you are in, but also to the sample as well. I mean, those are critically important data points for your organization, but like nearly a business imperative to stay leading within your industry. So those are like data points and information that you should want to know and share with other departments within your organization so that everyone can continue to lead, especially with the challenges of talent acquisition at this stage and point in time, and innovation and the byproducts of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Don't want to build a business case for that, but this is a way in which you can always stay attuned to positionality within the region. So that's important. Secondly is like commitment to data and metrics surrounding that. It's all for nothing if you don't know the status of your works or lack thereof. So that's critically important. So embedding that within your processes and procedures, reporting, assessment, things of that nature, to know what's going well, to know what's not going so well, and to action plan for the things that aren't going well and to elevate the things that are. That's by way of efficiency as well. So integrating that within your standards of practice as well and your operating procedures. I'm a big data person, so this shouldn't be a surprise. So that's what I'm going to focus on to convey to those in the audience as well.
I think it's easy. I can only speak for myself. It's easy to see the potential complexity around these topics and feel overwhelmed. So what I really want to highlight is that, when we say establish specific DEI metrics and track your progress, what this can look like for the first year is, what is participation? What is sentiment, right? When we're making efforts, do we have participation? Do we know how people felt about participating? When we're talking about collecting workforce demographics, look at what you're already collecting. See where there are gaps. Perhaps do a climate survey to see how the staff or those that you are employing or engaging with, how they feel about the idea of giving more information about their demographics. Like, are they amenable to that? Perhaps they would give you that information if you were asking. Perhaps not. Getting that baseline information. So this does not have to be a fully built out plan day one to move it forward. What you can do is look at what you're already doing. And you can gather more information there and then begin to think about what would strategically move that information forward. I would hate for people to see the words DEI metrics, tracking progress, and think that this has to be something that like you have fully together tomorrow. You need to be able to begin it so that you can continue to elaborate on it. Derrick, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I think your point is well taken of like some of this data you're collecting, some of it you have, and just get started. And also reach out to us for help as you get started, because that's also part of what we do is to help with this and to ease that possible anxiety around this work too. So yeah. Well, folks, Sabrina Bogus, I'm going to give you a chance. If there's any last thing you'd like to impart. I just realized it is 12:58, so this has gone by very quickly. But Sabrina Bogus, anything you wanted to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I just kind of piggyback off of Lora of everyone's at a different place within their journey and the work that they're doing. So we're here to help with that. You don't have to start everything, do everything in this next month and take on all of this. We're here to help along the way with Derrick, with consultations, with my team, with all of us. We'll help you do all of this work. That's what we're here for. So reach out.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to our audience again. Schedule that, read the report, schedule that consultation, sign up for next year's Vibrant Index. If you're a member, come to the Resilience Through Equity series that's happening on July 26th at 9 a.m. around supplier diversity. This is just the beginning of the conversation. And as always, please connect with this fabulous group of individuals that we all, that I get to work with, and we all work together. Please connect with our team, and we really look forward to seeing you and to talking with you. So thank you so much. Thank you, Derrick. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Lora. Thank you to our audience, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. Please be in touch, and we will be in touch with you. Thank you.